Big story about social media in the UK. The government has told these companies the era of self-regulation is over. If you're particularly keen, you can read the whole of a new white paper that's been published. It proposes an independent watchdog for websites like this. And in its summary, it says that these companies, along with their senior managers, could be fined and held liable for harmful content. Now, if you're thinking, what does harmful content mean? Well, there's an extensive list of definitions, but we're talking about things like fake news, hate speech, extremist content, content that could exacerbate mental health problems. And this is a big shift because at the moment, the person who posts content online is by far the person at most risk of prosecution. Here's the UK's Home Secretary.
Too many social media firms still seem to think that they can get away with providing the service without providing the protection for users. That anyone who challenges them must be some kind of Luddite who just doesn't understand the modern world. That a little progress here and there is acceptable, while countless people, their lives are being destroyed. Enough.
Well, the UK is not the only country looking at these issues. Last week, Australia passed the Sharing of Abhorrent Violent Material Act. It's introducing fines and jail sentences for companies and tech executives as well. This is all in the context of the live streaming of the mosque shootings in Christchurch in New Zealand a couple of weeks back. On top of that, we know at the beginning of last year, Germany, well, it brought in laws which say companies with more than 2 million users have 24 hours to remove illegal content. And if they don't, they face fines of up to 50 million euros if they don't comply. While the European Union is considering clamping down as well across the EU, with companies facing punishment if videos connected to terror attacks are not taken down within an hour. But this issue is complex because while some content is clearly illegal, much more of it sits in an area that's incredibly hard to define and to assess. Here's Zoe Kleinman.
Obviously, there's illegal content in the UK. Things like hate crime is illegal. But there's also this sort of umbrella term, harmful content, which includes things like trolling, cyberbullying, unpleasant things, but not necessarily against the law in themselves. And that's also a bit of a grey area. How do you navigate that? Because one thing that somebody doesn't like is another person's right to freedom of speech. And we're already seeing in other countries that there's, much discussion about whether freedom of speech is being censored. The tech firms, of course, if they're facing fines and legal proceedings, they're going to be cautious. They're going to delete first and think about it afterwards. And that's going to upset a lot of people, I think, who feel it's their right to give their views on the internet.